Pinocchio, Chapter 25. In this episode, Pinocchio is reunited with the fairy once more and seeks wisdom about becoming a man. Let's see what she advises. If Pinocchio cried much longer, the little woman thought he would melt away. So she finally admitted that she was the little fairy with azure hair. "Ah, you rascal of a marionette! How did you know it was I?" she asked, laughing. "My love for you told me who you were. Do you remember? You left me when I was a little girl, and now you find me a grown woman. I am so old. I could almost be your mother. Then I can call you mother instead of sister. For a long time I have wanted a mother, just like other boys. But how did you grow so quickly? That's a secret. Tell it to me. I also want to grow a little. Look at me. I have never grown higher than a penny's worth of cheese." "But you can't grow," answered the fairy. "Why not?" "Because marionettes never grow. They are born marionettes. They live marionettes, and they die marionettes." "Oh, I am tired of being a marionette," cried Pinocchio disgustedly. "It's about time for me to grow into a man, as everyone else does." "And you will if you deserve it." "Really? What can I do to deserve it?" "It's a very simple matter. Try to act like a well-behaved child." "Don't you think I do?" "Far from it. Good boys are obedient, and you, on the contrary." "And I never obey." "Good boys love to study and work, but you—" "And I, on the contrary, am a lazy fellow and a tramp all year round." "Good boys always tell the truth." "And I always tell lies." "Good boys gladly go to school." "And I get sick if I go to school. From now on, I'll be different." "Do you promise?" "I promise. I want to become a good boy and to be a comfort to my father. Where is my poor father now?" "I do not know." "Will I be ever lucky enough to find him and embrace him once more?" "I think so. Indeed, I am sure of it." At this answer, Pinocchio's happiness was very great. He grasped the fairy's hands and kissed them so hard that it looked as if he had lost his head. Then, lifting his face, he looked at her lovingly and asked, "Tell me, little mother, it isn't true that you are dead, is it?" "It doesn't seem so," answered the fairy, smiling. "If you only knew how I suffered and I wept when I read 'He lies.'" "I know it, and for that I have forgiven you. The depth of your sorrow made me see that you have a kind heart. There is always hope for boys with hearts such as yours, though they may often be very mischievous. This is the reason why I have come so far to look for you. From now on, I'll be your own little mother." "Oh, how lovely!" cried Pinocchio, jumping up with joy. "You will obey me always and do as I wish?" "Gladly, very gladly, more than gladly." "Beginning tomorrow," said the fairy, "you'll go to school every day." Pinocchio's face fell a little. "Then you will choose the trade you like best." Pinocchio became more serious. "Why are you mumbling to yourself?" asked the fairy. "I was just saying," whined the marionette in a whisper, "that it seems too late for me to go to school now." "No, indeed. Remember, it is never too late to learn." "But I don't want either trade or profession." "Why?" "Because work wearies me." "My dear boy," said the fairy, "people who speak as you do usually end their days in a prison or in hospital. A man, remember, whether rich or poor, should do something in this world. No one can find happiness without work. Woe betide the lazy fellow. Laziness is a serious illness, and one must cure it immediately, yes, even from early childhood. If not, it will kill you in the end." These words touched Pinocchio's heart. He lifted his eyes to the fairy and said seriously, "I'll work. I'll study. I'll do all you tell me. After all, the life of a marionette has grown very tiresome to me, and I want to become a boy, no matter how hard it is. You promise that, do you not?" "Yes, I promise. And now it is up to you." And that was chapter 25. So the fairy has advised lazy little Pinocchio that he must be a good boy. Can he follow her fairy wisdom? Find out next time. Pinocchio, chapter 26. Pinocchio has promised the fairy he will be a good boy and go to school. But school is a tough place for a little puppet. In the morning, bright and early, Pinocchio started for school. Imagine what the boys said when they saw a marionette enter the classroom. They laughed until they cried. Everyone played tricks on him. One pulled off his hat. Another tugged at his coat. A third tried to paint a moustache under his nose. One even attempted to tie strings to his feet and his hands to make him dance. For a while, Pinocchio was very calm and quiet. Finally, however, he lost his patience, and turning to his tormentors, he said to them threateningly, "Careful, boys! I haven't come here to be made fun of. I'll respect you, and I want you to respect me. Hurrah for Dr. Know-all! You have spoken like a printed book," howled the boys, bursting with laughter. One of them, more impudent than the rest, put out his hand to pull the marionette's nose. But he was not quick enough, for Pinocchio stretched his legs under the table and kicked him hard on the shin. "Oh, what hard feet!" cried the boy, rubbing the spot where the marionette had kicked him. "And what elbows! They are even harder than the feet," shouted another one, who, because of some other trick, had received a blow in the stomach. With that kick and that blow, Pinocchio gained everyone's favour. Everyone admired him, danced attendance upon him, petted and caressed him. As the days passed into weeks, even the teacher praised him, for he saw him attentive, hard-working and wide-awake, always the first to come in the morning and the last to leave when school was over. Pinocchio's only fault was that he had too many friends. Among these were many well-known rascals who cared not a jot for study or for success. The teacher warned him each day, and even the good fairy repeated to him many times, "Take care, Pinocchio. Those bad companions will sooner or later make you lose your love for study. Some day they will lead you astray." "There's no such danger," answered the marionette, shrugging his shoulders and pointing to his forehead as if to say, "I am too wise." So it happened that one day as he was walking to school, he met some boys who ran up to him and said, "Have you heard the news?" "No." "A shark as big as a mountain has been seen near the shore." "Really? I wonder if it could be the same one I heard of when my father was drowned." "We are going to see it. Are you coming?" "No, not I. I must go to school." "What do you care about school? You can go there tomorrow, with a lesson more or less. We're always the same donkeys." "And what will the teacher say?" "Let him talk. He is paid to grumble all day long." "And my mother?" "Mothers don't know anything," answered those scamps. "Do you know what I'll do?" said Pinocchio. "For certain reasons of mine, I do want to see the shark. But I'll go after school. I can see him then, as well as now." "Poor simpleton!" cried one of the boys. "Do you think that a fish that size will stand there waiting for you? He turns and off he goes, and no one will be ever the wiser." "How long does it take from here to the shore?" asked the marionette. "1 hour there and back." "Very well then, let's see who gets there first!" cried Pinocchio. At the signal, the little troop, with books under their arms, dashed across the fields. Pinocchio led the way, running as if on wings, the others following as fast as they could. Now and again he looked back, and seeing his followers hot and tired, and with tongues hanging out, he laughed out heartily. "Unhappy boys!" If he had only known then the dreadful things that were to happen to him on account of his disobedience. And that was chapter 26 of Pinocchio. Pinocchio has been easily distracted from school, all in the hope of seeing a shark. Let's hope he wises up. Let's hope he wises up. In the next chapter of Pinocchio, chapter 27. It seems Pinocchio cannot stay out of trouble for long. Let's hope he avoids the shark's bite. Going like the wind, Pinocchio took but a very short time to reach the shore. He glanced all about him, but there was no sign of a shark. The sea was as smooth as glass. "Hey there, boys! Where's that shark?" he asked, turning to his playmates. "He may have gone for breakfast," said one of them, laughing. "Or perhaps he went for a little nap," said another, laughing also. From the answers and the laughter which followed, Pinocchio understood that the boys had played a trick on him. "What now?" he said angrily to them. "What's the joke?" "Oh, the joke's on you!" cried his tormentors, laughing more heartily than ever and dancing gaily around the marionette. "And that is?" "That we have made you stay out of school to come with us. Aren't you ashamed of being such a goody-goody and of studying so hard? You never have a bit of enjoyment. And what is it to you if I study? What does the teacher think of us, you mean? Why? Don't you see? If you study and we don't, we pay for it. After all, it's only fair to look out for ourselves. What do you want me to do? Hate school and books and teachers as we all do. They are your worst enemies, you know, and they like to make you as unhappy as they can. And if I go on studying, what will you do to me? You'll pay for it. Really, you amuse me, answered the marionette, nodding his head. Hey, Pinocchio, cried the tallest of them. That will do. We are tired of hearing you bragging about yourself, you little turkey cock. You may not be afraid of us, but remember, we are not afraid of you either. You are alone, you know, and we are 7. Like the 7 sins, said Pinocchio, still laughing. Did you hear that? He has insulted us all. He has called us sins. Pinocchio, apologize for that or look out. Cuckoo, said the marionette, mocking them with his thumb to his nose. You'll be sorry. Cuckoo! We'll whip you soundly. Cuckoo! You'll go home with a broken nose. Cuckoo! Very well then, take that! And keep it for your supper, called out the boldest of his tormentors. And with the words, he gave Pinocchio a terrible blow on the head. Pinocchio answered with another blow, and that was the signal for the beginning of the fray. In a few moments, the fight raged hot and heavy on both sides. Pinocchio, although alone, defended himself bravely. With those 2 wooden feet of his, he worked so fast his opponents kept at a respectful distance. Wherever they landed, they left their painful mark, and the boys could only run away and howl. Enraged at not being able to fight the marionette at close quarters, they started to throw all kinds of books at him. Readers, geographies, histories, grammars flew in all directions. But Pinocchio was keen of eye and swift of movement, and the books only passed over his head, landing in the sea and disappearing. The fish, thinking they might be good to eat, came to the top of the water in great numbers. Some took a nibble, some took a bite, but no sooner had they tasted a page or 2 than they spat them out with a wry face, as if to say, "Oh, what a horrid taste! Our own food is much better." Meanwhile, the battle waxed more and more furious. At the noise, a large crab crawled slowly out of the water, and with a voice that sounded like a trombone suffering from a cold, he cried out,
"Stop fighting, you rascals! These battles between boys rarely end well. Trouble is sure to come to you."
Poor crab! He might as well have spoken to the wind. Instead of listening to his good advice, Pinocchio turned to him and said as roughly as he knew how, "Keep quiet, ugly Gab. It would be better for you to chew a few cough drops to get rid of that cold you have. Go to bed and sleep. You will feel better in the morning." In the meantime, the boys, having used all their books, looked around for new ammunition. Seeing Pinocchio's bundle lying idle nearby, they somehow managed to get hold of it. One of the books was a very large volume, an arithmetic text, heavily bound in leather. It was Pinocchio's pride. Among all his books, he liked that one the best. Thinking it would make a fine missile, one of the boys took hold of it and threw it with all his strength at Pinocchio's head. But instead of hitting the marionette, the book struck one of the other boys, who was as pale as a ghost, crying out faintly, "Oh, Mother, help! I'm dying!" and fell senseless to the ground. At the sight of that pale little corpse, the boys were so frightened that they turned tail and ran. In a few moments, all had disappeared, all except Pinocchio. Although scared to death by the horror of what had been done, he ran to the sea and soaked his handkerchief in the cold water, and with it bathed the head of his poor little schoolmate. Sobbing bitterly, he called to him, saying, "Eugene! My poor Eugene! Open your eyes and look at me. Why don't you answer? I was not the one who hit you, you know. Believe me, I didn't do it. Open your eyes, Eugene. If you keep them shut, I'll die too. Oh, dear me. Oh, shall I ever go home now? How shall I ever look at my little mother again? What will happen to me? Where shall I go? Where shall I hide? Oh, how much better it would have been, 1,000 times better, if only I had gone to school. Why did I listen to those boys? They were always a bad influence. And to think that the teacher had told me, and my mother too, beware of bad company. That's what she said. But I am stubborn and proud. I listen, and always I do as I wish. And then I pay. I've never had a moment's peace since I've been born. Oh, dear! What will become of me? What will become of me? Pinocchio went on crying and moaning and beating his head. Again and again he called to his little friend, when suddenly he heard heavy steps approaching. He looked up and saw 2 tall carabineers near him. "What are you doing, stretched out on the ground?" they asked Pinocchio. "I'm helping this schoolfellow of mine." "Has he fainted?" "I should say so," said one of the carabineers, bending to look down at Eugene. "The boy has been wounded on the temple. Who has hurt him?" "Not I," stammered the marionette, who had hardly a breath left in his whole body. "If it wasn't you, who was it then?" "Not I," repeated Pinocchio. "And with what was he wounded?" "With this book." And the marionette picked up the arithmetic text to show it to the officer. "And whose book is this?" "Mine." "Enough. Not another word. Get up as quickly as you can and come along with us." "But I—" "Come with us." "But I am innocent." "Come with us." Before starting out, the officers called out to several fishermen passing by in a boat and said to them, "Take care of this little fellow who has been hurt. Take him home and bind his wounds. Tomorrow we'll come after him." Then they took hold of Pinocchio and, putting him between them, said to him in a rough voice, "March, and go quickly, or it will be the worse for you." They did not have to repeat their words. The marionette walked swiftly along the road to the village, but the poor fellow hardly knew what he was about. He thought he had a nightmare. He fell ill. His eyes saw everything double. His legs tremble. His tongue was dry. And try as he might, he could not utter a single word. Yet, in spite of this numbness of feeling, he suffered keenly at the thought of passing under the windows of his good little fairy's house. What would she say on seeing him between 2 carabineers? They had just reached the village when a sudden gust of wind blew off Pinocchio's cap and made it go sailing far down the street. Would you allow me, the marionette asked the carabineers, to run after my cap? Very well, go, but hurry. The marionette went, picked up his cap, but instead of putting it on his head, he stuck it between his teeth, and then raced toward the sea. He went like a bullet out of a gun. The carabineers, judging that it would be very difficult to catch him, sent a large mastiff after him, one that had won first prize in all the dog races. Pinocchio ran fast, and the dog ran faster. At so much noise, the people hung out of the windows or gathered in the street, anxious to see the end of the contest. But they were disappointed, for the dog and Pinocchio raised so much dust on the road that, after a few moments, it was impossible to see them. And that was chapter 27. Unlucky little Pinocchio has got in trouble with the law again. Will his speedy legs help him escape the fierce dog? Find out in the next chapter of Pinocchio